Episode 14, Roll with the Fox. We're live in Butler, New Jersey. Anyways, I want to follow up on two things. I want to follow up on sort of the NoGi variation of what we talked about last week, engaging a stalling opponent. The idea is exactly the same. Um, and the grips are the same, so there's not a lot of variation. If you want a detailed dive into it, look at last week's episode. That'd be episode 13. What season are we in? 7?
7.
Okay. All right, 7th year in a row we're doing this. Man,
It's good.
should be a medal or something. Sash.
With the confetti.
And the other one, guys, I was yesterday we were working up here about K-guard, and it looks like a lot of people don't have a good entry. They're having trouble inverting. So that was the other thing that I wanted to talk about is K-guard entries and how do you make them as efficient and as effective as possible. And also, of course, sometimes your head is on the outside, which makes the entry a little bit weaker and less effective, but you could still make it work. So that's sort of the two topics I have. But as you know, live questions take priority. So Aaliyah's already given me the finger. What do we have?
One, we have a lot of good mornings from Raji, Elad, Ensberg.
What's up, guys?
El Carlton and Chris Crew. Then we had a question from MJ.
Oh, Eli, real quick, if you're going to go to Florence with us, make sure you get your stuff in by May 31st because there will probably be room in the camp because we don't have a strict limit. The academy is fairly large, but if you're going to go to Florence with us, try to get it in by May 31st because after that, we have to reserve the X number of transportation for the excursions. All right? Anyways, I'm sorry.
Yes, MJ's question. When in a good position with a guillotine, how do you keep your hands in the right position while they are three-dimensionally trying to escape?
Ooh, three-dimensionally trying to escape.
Especially when you are trying to apply it technically.
Okay. So let's go back. So we last week we did sort of when you have a guy that doesn't want to engage close guard. We talked about having your hips close to their torso, and the guy's playing patty cake. He does so. The grip fighting, it's actually easier with NoGi. So all I need to do is just break his posture, and notice how I'm pulling him in. This happens. This is a problem for him. He cannot ignore this because if he ignores this, I'm gonna open my guard like we talked about last week and feet on the hips, and now he's in serious trouble. So he cannot ignore that. So many times, I push and pull him forward with my hips. As he starts, so again, if he ignores it, I have all these possible attacks, right? You can see I'm already controlling his posture, which we did with the gi, but it's basically the same idea. So now, as the guy postures up hard, I'm going to go into the hip heist. As I go into the hip heist, no. Most high-level guys will not let you do that. So what I'm trying to do is bring my hips back. So from here, the guillotine is on because I'm so far away from him, right? That I can finish this because I can change the angle as I'm laying down. There's just too much space. But let's assume the guy is super strong and tries to bust out of it. If he does, I take that hand and I frame with it. And now we wind up maybe in a sort of Ezekiel. The idea is we're going to go over what happens if you don't get the wrap. But basically, this is exactly the same way I break sort of the stalling guy in the gi. Again, it's about controlling the distance, which initially I latch on my hips to his torso, but then when I start to get things going, I try to move them out. So I'm playing three-dimensional guard. Again, we talk about it. Usually people play half or one-dimensional guard. They usually pull. Sometimes they pull and push, but that's pull and push is one dimension. We want to make sure we go left and right and height too. Okay, so let's look at where I don't get a wrap. So again, I'm pulling in as he reacts. I heist, and the guy just kind of hangs on. So from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a wrestle up. Wrestle Up is supremely easy, guys. I do this to high-level black belts all day, every day, because they're petrified of getting their arm taken or their neck taken. And they should be, because if they don't respect it, they're gonna get choked. So there's a couple different ways to attack, but the basic idea is I'm super close. When I heist, I create distance, and then depending on his reaction, I either attack the head, the arms, or I wrestle up or hip heist with the guillotine. Now, let's talk about the guillotine, because that was MJ's question. So, again, Craig trying to have a good posture, playing patty cake as I'm trying to pull him down. So it's the hips. A lot of times people do this. What are you gonna do? Yeah. You did nothing. Now you did something. And now. So I'm wrapping with my left hand. My right leg needs to be up. Because if he jumps over the right leg, he clears the guillotine. Go ahead, yeah, it's not gonna happen. So as he's doing it, because he's not driving forward, I'm gonna apply Iron Fist, aka NoGi Ezekiel. I don't like the word diesel squeezle. To me, it's a stupid term, but I don't care what you use. So if he drives forward, I'm gonna connect normal guillotine. So again, let's look at it one more time. So I'm close, my hips, I pop, and I wrap the head, and I just try to slide. Notice when my right leg is constantly blocking him going around. From here, anytime, we talked about this before, when you wrap the head, so I wrap the head, initially I focus on the shoulder forward. That is the most initial, but it's not just initial, it stays the whole time, but initially, the biggest danger is that he pops out. So this is what prevents his head from popping out. Second, as he starts to drive forward, I now start to pay attention to the lower part of the arm. So what I'm doing is turning my hand and then focusing on making this hole as small as possible. This is what causes a very severe constriction. Some of you guys, I call it the guillotine from hell. I've been hitting it the last maybe year. A lot of times it happens off the guy sort of being on his knees. Maybe I try to arm drag, they start to back up. I pop up and I'm going forward. Now they try to put me in guard. A lot of times, it doesn't matter whether I have an underhook or overhook. Put me in guard, don't let me pass the guard. So I basically float here. We talked about this, right? So I float here, I focus when I'm floating to keep his shoulders on the mat. Anytime he turns to me, I keep throwing my leg. I don't care about, but a lot of times people try to take it out, and that's when the guy's shoulders come up. If I can connect, you still have a second bite of the apple. Basically, you can finish the guillotine. But I focus on keeping his shoulders flat. Go ahead, keep me. Until I can pass clean. Once I pass clean, I lift my hips. What I do is now, Aaliyah, can you zoom in on this? Watch. No. You stay this way. Look what I did to my hand. I turn my hand. I turn my hand, and then you always get that reaction, guys. This is why I call it guillotine from hell. Because once I turn my hand, it's very tight by itself. The body pressure down not only keeps him pinned, but also the constriction becomes extremely small. So extremely tight. And basically, usually the guy taps and then he coughs.
We had a question from Justin Fora. Have you seen the way Eric Paulson finishes his knee bars? He holds the leg, falls on his back instead of his side. Can you break down the pros and cons of this versus falling to the side? He says it lifts the opponent's hips slightly and puts
First of all, Eric Paulson is big, so is bigger than me, but also it is very difficult to control which way the guy falls, especially, so if you're doing a knee bar from the top, even from the top, it's difficult to completely control the angle. Usually, let's go to the K guard. Now, there's a lot of entries that also make sure that you not only have the knee bar, but should the guy successfully defend the knee bar, it puts you back into sort of heel hooks, straight ankle locks, toe holds, and if he straightens it out, it's back to the knee bar. Usually, I don't really care whether he falls on his side, whether he falls on his back. Most high-level guys will try to fall on their back and point their toes. And why? So, did I teach this here? Guys, I forget sometimes between Butler and Saddlebrook when I'm teaching. We talk about the defenses against sort of the knee bar entries. Usually when the knee bar entry is strong, what I try to do is kind of fall and turn my kneecap 180 degrees from his torso, which now buys me time to escape. So I believe falling to the side is a little bit easier to control, not just the angle, but also enter. You already set up. It's hard to finish, heel hook when you square up because you kind of have to turn and hunt for the heel, depending on where the guy falls. But I believe it's very difficult, even at a high level. If you watch the matches, it's almost impossible to control the angle. You need to make sure that you control the leg, not the angle of his body. Whether he controls that. You need to make sure that you control the leg from rotating. Because if the leg cannot rotate, you have a knee bar. If he bends it, you have a heel hook. If he controls sort of the angle of his leg, that's when he can sort of buy himself time to potentially pull his leg out and escape altogether. So again, especially when you do it from the bottom, depends how late he let's go to the sort of K guard entries. Guys, by the way, we're going to go into greater detail on the app into this. So as Craig, anytime I go into K guard, not here. Basically, he tries to stand up to pass my guard. I'm attacking the arm. I know that, and here, I'm trying to put my head between his legs, but that did not work because he just stepped up too close. So now, I want to make sure I control the leg. I don't really care which way he falls, because if he falls to my left, the bar is up. Let's go back. If he falls to my right, knee bar is on. If he stays where he is, knee bar is on. It really does not matter that much. What you want to have is have your torso against the kneecap. That's what allows you hyperextension. But to be honest with you, I really don't care. Because if you've been following us, you know about the lateral knee bar. It does not matter. So I think you might be focusing on the whole body, whereas I'm focusing on the leg. And it's a lot easier to control one limb than 5 limbs, meaning the head and 2 arms and the legs. So again, a lot of times when you train, the more you train, the longer you train, you learn that people move in a certain way. I can control one. So I've done this many times. The guy's top side control. I attack this limb. Now I know which way he's going to move. I don't control the rest of his body. It's very difficult to control the whole body, but it's easy to control the limb. A lot of times with arms, I know exactly what, and this is by just experience and practice. If I control this rotation, I know he has to, if he's going to do anything, he's going to roll, and I stay on that arm. I stay on the attack. It's the same thing with legs. You need to learn how people react in a specific sort of danger and which way do they go. And anytime you can stop somebody from spinning, whether it's on the legs or arms, it doesn't matter. Now this is time to shut him down. Whether it's, you're attacking the arm, I may switch from the elbow to the shoulder. Depends. If he bends it, I go to the shoulder. If he straightens it out, I go to the elbow. But I'm controlling the limb. This is a very big thing. This is what Mike used to call intricate pain compliance. The ability to control that limb through applying pressure to one of the joints, be it on the leg, it's usually the knee and possibly the ankle. On the arm, the shoulder and the elbow, of course, you have the wrist. I tend to stay away from wrist locks. I will use them more to just kind of put the guy, extend his arm to defend his wrist, and now he's an arm bar. But you have, by the ability to control that limb, you can control their movement. And that, I think, is more important.
We do have 2 questions. I'll pick it up on the app. But
Okay. All right, guys. I will see you next week. Look forward to, I was going to, I'm still in the technical, my brain is spinning on these things. So, guys, I will see you on the app if you want to kind of go deeper into these 2 issues, be it K-guard or be it the guillotine. Let's go to the app.